For over a decade, I served as the matriarch of the royal household. I treated my mother-in-law as my own mother, and obeyed my husband in every way. I poured my heart and soul into raising our children. Yet all I received in return was this: a wife like you brings shame upon our family. Abandoned at the estate, I died alone and miserable. Given another chance, I resolved to live differently. Mother-in-law insists on becoming a nun. Go ahead. Husband wants to take a concubine. Marry her. Son spends his days carousing and neglecting his studies. Let him. What business is it of mine what they choose to do? Yet one by one, they all come begging me to manage them. I never imagined I'd die like this. The wind, lashing like knives, swept snow into the room. The maid knelt on the floor, weeping. Madam, they say the coal is gone. How could that be? A royal household, in the depths of winter, without stored coal. It must be someone's order. Rations cut, expenses curtailed, and now even the coal for warmth is denied. As for whose orders these were, surely not my mother-in-law, who swore upon my marriage she'd treat me as her own daughter, nor my husband, who vowed before the gods to be mine alone, never to forsake me. Then perhaps my own son, the child I bore through 10 months of pregnancy. Yet who calls another mother? Another gust swept in, clutching my chest. I coughed violently, but what came up was a mouthful of blood. Lady, ill fetch a doctor. It won't do any good. On New Year's Eve, what doctor would brave the snowstorm to save a discarded wife of the royal household? I had feeling move the bamboo chair outside the courtyard. Soon, fireworks lit up the night sky. Just one street away, the Zhuang residence lay a mere block from the royal mansion. The mansion welcomed a new bride and a newborn son. This New Year's Eve was naturally bustling with celebration. Except for me. After marrying into the mansion over a decade ago, I devoted myself entirely to the household. Yet I ended up despised by my mother-in-law, unloved by my husband, and scorned by my son. How? Irony. Madam, the roar of fireworks drowned out feeling's cries. And so I died on a night of family reunion. My husband embraced his new bride. My son set off fireworks. My mother-in-law sipped fresh tea. Not a single soul remembered the discarded wife who had given everything for them. Fortunately, heaven took pity on me. I was reborn. Now, I grasped a steaming teacup, poised to hurl it at Song Yunqian. Yi Tang, don't be so insolent. It's just taking a secondary wife. Must you rage so fiercely? Which nobleman doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? I froze. The teacup clenched tightly in my hand. This was 6 years ago. Song Yunqian had kept a mistress for 10 years, hiding it flawlessly. When I learned the truth, I fell gravely ill. Before I could recover, he brought her home with great fanfare. He declared he would take her as a secondary wife. We grew up together, childhood sweethearts. Our lives were pledged long ago. Had I not married you first, she would have been my primary wife. Now, as an equal wife, she must still address you as elder sister. What more could you possibly want? After years of marriage, I never knew he had a mistress to whom he had pledged his life. In my past life, I would have flung this tea at him without hesitation. After a fierce argument with Song Yunqian, I coughed up blood and rage. That left me with a lifelong illness. Yet now, my hand trembled slightly as I gripped the teacup. Not a trace of anger remained. I had been reborn. Reborn at the very beginning of everything. Even if you refuse, I will still. Then marry her. I placed the teacup down deliberately. Song Yunqian froze. My lord shows no resentment toward Miss Yun's status as a divorced woman. Nor does he fear the world's judgment. His affection runs deep as the sea. Truly a man of honor and devotion. I took a small sip of tea, curving my lips at him. Choose an auspicious day soon and bring the lady into the household. Amidst Song Yunqian's stunned expression, I rose. Why refuse? The emotional wounds from my past life were one reason. But more significantly, I was concerned for the Wang family's reputation. Yun Yao and Song Yunqian had indeed been childhood sweethearts. They had even been betrothed. Yet years ago, she had scorned the Wang family's decline, broken off the engagement, and married the second son of the Minister of Rights. Within 2 years, she was divorced on charges of disrespecting her mother-in-law. Her birth family, ashamed of her, refused to take her back. Song Yunqian, however, did not reject her. He promptly took her into his household. But if this were made public, the prince's mansion taking a divorced woman as a secondary wife, and the divorced wife of a colleague, no less, wouldn't the entire capital laugh itself silly? How would Song Yunqian face Yun Yao's former husband, now the prefect of Jinsao in the imperial court? To Song Yunqian, my many considerations boiled down to 2 words: jealousy. This lifetime, they'll let him have his way. What do the prince's mansion's reputation or Song Yunqian's official career have to do with me? Take some gold, silver, and fine goods to send to Miss Yun. I instructed my maid. Tell the prince that once the date is set, simply inform the inner courtyard. Not only did I consent to Song Yunqian taking a secondary wife, I would ensure his celebration was grand and splendid. The prince is taking another wife. Within half a day, the news spread throughout the prince's mansion. Unlike my previous life, in my previous life, I had refused. The servants only knew I had a huge argument with Song Yunqian. They dared not gossip about anything else. But this time, my personal maid respectfully delivered the garments and jewelry. Before leaving, she declared in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "Our mistress invites Miss Yun to reside comfortably in the prince's mansion when His Highness sets the wedding date. An 8-person palanquin will surely carry you into the mansion." Peony reported that Yin Yao had been utterly stunned. "Madam, are you truly allowing that fox-like temptress to enter as a cowwife?" Peony was Fuling's elder sister. In my past life, she passed away even before me. Yet on her deathbed, she still remembered to bring her younger sister to the estate to care for me. I pressed a peach blossom pastry into her hand. In the 5th year of the estate, this was a rare treat. Before I could speak, a commotion erupted outside. Young master, be careful. Don't bump into the orchids. Ouch. My dear son has arrived. Mother, are you so weak?" Song Jing kicked open my door. "You let that woman enter the house so easily. Is this how the mistress of the Jingon Prince's mansion manages the household?" I was holding a peach blossom pastry. No need to put it down. I took a gentle bite and gazed at him quietly. Song Jing is 14 this year. I married into the prince's household at 16 and bore him the following year. My delivery was tragically difficult. For 2 days and nights, I nearly bled to death on the birthing bed. Yet over the years, we've never grown particularly close. First, after his birth, my mother-in-law claimed I needed rest and took him away. He was gone for 6 or 7 years. When I finally got him back, his eyes were filled only with his grandmother. Second, I later came to understand, behind her serene facade, my mother-in-law had secretly sown discord at every turn. She insisted he study, claiming it was for my honor. She forbade him from associating with those idle young nobles. Seething over the 2 days he tormented me on the delivery bed, unable to bear seeing him happy, she even barred him from pleasure quarters, fearing he'd learn the ways of men and women, marry young, and seize control of the household from me, before my son, whom I carried for 10 months. She painted me as a jealous, wicked woman. The tree of Song Jing had long since grown crooked. Once, I felt guilty. I blamed my own weakness back then, for being too timid and easily bullied, for not keeping him close to raise him myself. I tried desperately to make amends. It took 3 years living at the estate for me to finally understand. Not all mothers and sons share a bond of blood. Am I not right? Song Jing lifted his chin. Usually when he flew into such a rage, I'd rush over, pouring tea, patting his back, appeasing him. urging him to speak calmly. But today, I merely turned my face away, poured myself a cup of tea. Mother. Song Jing's tone unexpectedly softened. That woman might be acceptable as a concubine, but how could she be a wife? Marrying a divorced woman as my wife, wouldn't I be laughed to death at the academy? And what's more, people would mock you for failing to maintain discipline in your household, for lacking authority. Is that so? In my past life, he sided with his mother-in-law, accusing me of being unable to tolerate even a weak woman, calling me a jealous wife. I don't care. That woman absolutely cannot enter this house. If you marry her, I'll disown you as my mother forever. I smiled. Jinger. I gazed at him. It is your father who seeks a wife, never me. Song Jing stormed out in fury. Before crossing the threshold, he bellowed. It's all because you're plain as dirt. You couldn't keep father's heart. Fulling hurried to comfort me. Young master is still young. Madam, don't be upset. I shook my head. He isn't young's just accustomed to it. All these years, every fault has been mine. When my mother-in-law fell ill, it was my neglect. When my husband was overwhelmed with duties, it was my failure to ease his burden. Even when a kitten or puppy went missing in the manor, it was my incompetence as mistress of the house. Madam, this is a serious matter. Perhaps we should inform the old lady. I pressed another osmanthus cake into Feeling's hands. Inform her of what? Wasn't Song Jing the one Shed encouraged to come? Who in the entire Wang mansion, save for the deluded Song Yunqian, didn't know welcoming Yun Yao into the household would invite ridicule? In my previous life, I'd been the one to make that mistake. My mother-in-law would then side with Song Yunqian, joining him in accusing me of malicious jealousy. But this time, I gladly agreed. She's the most prideful woman in the entire capital. She couldn't stand idly by. Yet she wouldn't want to tear apart her own son. So she sent Song Jing to cause trouble for me. Let him cause trouble, even if he causes an uproar. I won't waste another word on this matter. Just after supper, someone arrived from the west courtyard. The moment they saw me, they urgently reported. Madam, the old lady has packed her belongings and says she intends to become a nun. Very well. This tactic again. It was always like this back then. And now it's happening again. My mother-in-law always wears a smile and speaks the sweetest words. But whenever things go against her will, she wipes away tears. I'm old and useless now. This household is in such chaos I'd rather not see it. They'll leave you all behind and become a nun. From childhood, I'd study the virtues and teachings for women. At home, obey your father. In marriage, obey your husband. Honor your parents above all. Teach your children below. This is how a woman should be. How could I drive my mother-in-law to take vows? That would be the height of disobedience. Whenever my mother-in-law made such gestures, I would rush to her side, apologizing profusely. But now, Fulling, I called out. The old lady intends to enter a convent. Quickly, prepare some warm clothes, silver, and provisions to send to her, and have the steward prepare horses at once. While it's still daylight if we delay, the nunnery will close its gates. The Jingon prince's mansion was thrown into utter chaos. First, the prince was taking a new bride. Now, the old lady sought to enter a convent, and the first lady, who always held the reins and steadied hearts, remained utterly silent on the matter. When servants inquired, she only replied, all must obey the prince, all must obey the old lady. Fulling touched my forehead several times, fearing I'd lost my mind from my recent illness. I sent her to fetch wine. Warming wine while watching snow, nothing could be more delightful. After all, this charade would play on for some time yet. How could my mother-in-law truly become a nun? In my past life, I only understood when Shed drained me dry. The accounts she entrusted to me back then were merely a fraction of the prince's estate. She clung to the wealth, her son, and her grandson, never once considering relinquishing control. The so-called entrusting household management to me was merely a pretext under the banner of the prince's decline, waiting for me to use my dowry to cover the estate's expenses. How could Song Yunqian ever concede so easily? These past years, he's risen through the ranks with ease, brimming with pride and ambition, and that Miss Yunsha's cunning beyond measure. In the words of the Song Yunqian from my past life, she is the moon in the heavens, the snow in the clouds. How could she be compared to a mundane woman like you? You want me to make her my concubine? You're dreaming. Sure enough, on her way out of the capital, my mother-in-law was forced back to the mansion by Song Jing's wailing and lamentations. 3 days later, Song Yunqian sent in the date had chosen. Written on red paper, it was urgent the 18th of next month. Another 3 days passed before my mother-in-law could contain herself any longer. She led the second and third branches of the family, uncles, aunts, younger brothers' wives, and nieces' wives stormed into my courtyard. Today was the 15th. In the past, on the 15th of every month, I would gather all the branches of the family to dine together and admire the moon, within and without the prince's mansion. No one failed to praise me as virtuous and gracious, but they also taught me something. One should not live to meet others' expectations. So this time, as everyone stared at the single cup of clear tea before them, they looked at each other in silence. Yi Jitan. Is resorting to such vulgar tactics all you know? Oh, so Song Yunqian was here too. He believed I'd deliberately provoked my mother-in-law into seeking monastic life, then summoned everyone only to offer a single cup of tea, all silent protest. Grandmother, a mere meal. Is our mansion so lacking? I'll have Ho Nanny bring it at once. Song Jing spoke, shooting me a fierce glare. I tugged at the corners of my lips, kept my eyes downcast as I sipped my tea. Yi, sure. If you feel wronged or dissatisfied, speak your mind. I saw through it all now. I thought Shed gathered everyone to pressure Song Yunqian. After all, in my past life, had come to his senses after several heated arguments between us. He sent Yun Yao away from the estate, only after reaching the pinnacle of his career. When no one dared speak ill of him, did he finally marry her? But no, Shed merely gathered them to attack me. Indeed, Mother is the most reasonable. Shall surely uphold justice for sister-in-law. It was the third wife's younger sister-in-law. TSK tisk TSK. Everyone says the Yi family daughters are exceptionally virtuous, but in my opinion, it's all just a facade for public display. The third uncle from the second branch. It seems Lord Yi passed away so long ago that even his dying words have been forgotten. My father entrusted you all to take care of me before he died. Yet no one seems to remember that either. Auntie, as the mistress of this mansion, you can't just stand by and do nothing. Is that so? When they cast me aside at the estate, no one mentioned I was the mistress of this mansion. Those playing good cop and bad cop took turns speaking. They practically drowned me in their venom. I remained silent. My only thought was to tell Fueling, next time anyone comes, don't even bother serving tea. Yi, sure. Mother-in-law slammed her hand on the table. What on earth do you think you're doing? Oh, she's losing her temper. I continued sipping my tea. Disrespecting elders. Acting so insolently, is this how a mistress should behave? I couldn't be bothered to lift my eyelids. Yi Jitong. You wouldn't dare. What do I want? A divorce. You guessed right. The teacup clattered against the tabletop. I lifted my gaze and rose. Mother speaks most wisely. Jitong shows no respect for elders and behaves with contempt. She fails to honor her mother above and neglects her duty to raise her children below. She is incapable of managing the affairs of the royal household. I humbly request a divorce decree, so Jitan may return home. I curtsied and bowed low. Before anyone could react, I summoned Fueling. I'd prepared for this days ago. Everyone only saw the mansion's prosperity grow over the years, unaware of the effort I poured into it. The coming years would be crucial for Song Yunqian's career advancement. Describing his spending as money flowing like water would be no exaggeration. In my previous life, I had nearly depleted my entire dowry just to keep up. This time, the household finances. Let whoever wants to manage them take charge. Before everyone present, I handed all the account books to my mother-in-law. I summoned the steward and returned every key to the storerooms. All the land deeds, property contracts, and shopfronts ID managed over the years were inventoried. With a final curtsy, Tang possesses neither the capability nor the fortune to manage the prince's household. With His Highness marrying anew, Mother will surely find a worthy match. Let us part ways amicably. The vast courtyard fell silent. Before anyone could speak, Song Yunqian smashed the teacup in his hand. The one who had intended to interrogate me thoroughly swept his sleeves and left. Song Yunqian stayed behind, unleashing a torrent of anger. He likely wanted to quarrel with me, but I had no desire to argue. For those unworthy, even one extra glance is a waste of one's life. Don't threaten me with divorce. I won't give in. I must marry Yun Yao. I shrugged. Go ahead then. Who's stopping you? After over a decade as husband and wife, you want a divorce. Dream on. I pouted. Then we want divorce. You're utterly unreasonable. Song Yunqian's hands trembled with rage before he flung his sleeves aside. He nearly kicked the door off its hinges as he stormed out. Madam. Feeling approached again. Concern etched on her face. I poured myself a leisurely cup of tea. Divorce. It's never that simple. My parents passed away early, leaving me without any connections in the capital. The divorce decree required both Song Yunqian and my mother-in-law's signatures. But Song Yunqian had just been appointed Assistant Minister of Works this year. If he merely married Yun Yao, he could still use childhood affection as an excuse. But if he divorced me to marry Yun Yao, he'd be reported to the authorities for sure. And my mother-in-law, she'd been eyeing my dowry since I entered the household. My father was merely the unassuming grand tutor to the crown prince, but my mother was famously the daughter of the wealthiest merchant in Jiangnan. When I married, my wedding procession stretched for miles, causing a sensation throughout the capital. If we divorce, wouldn't I take those dowry treasures already in the prince's household? By publicly confronting him this time, my sole intention was to decisively sever my authority over the household. I never expected an unexpected blessing. My mother-in-law actually agreed to let Yun Yao enter the household. Rumor has it that after returning that day, she raged in her chambers. Who does she think she is? As if the Jinggan prince's mansion couldn't manage without her. Yet the very next day, she relented to Song Yunqian. I understand my mother-in-law. She's likely just like Song Yunqian. She believed my public demand for a divorce was merely a ploy to blackmail her. So she decided to play it straight, hoping to force me into admitting fault. Alas, her scheme backfired. Nanny Lee came every few days to report on the wedding preparations, but I ignored her. Song Jing came every few days to cause a scene, but I couldn't care less. On the wedding day, my mother-in-law's face was as dark as storm clouds, especially when some servant made a blunder and sent the invitation to Yun Yao's ex-husband. That former husband, a vagabond himself, actually showed up. The scene turned utterly awkward. The day after the wedding, my mother-in-law, seemingly out of spite, handed over all the ledgers, land deeds, and other documents to Yun Yao right in front of me. Fine by me. No more using my dowry to subsidize this family of ingrate wolves. Just like in my past life, Yun Yao was beautiful and sweet-talking. For days on end, she charmed my mother-in-law into beaming with joy. Song Jing adored her too. After all, she never nagged him about his studies or questioned his late nights. Soon, my courtyard was nearly forgotten. Song Yunqian was busy indulging in romantic affairs with his new wife. Song Jing was busy carousing throughout the capital. The mother-in-law was busy cultivating a mother-daughter bond with her new daughter-in-law. And me, when night fell, I changed into different clothes. I slipped out of the mansion through a hidden side door. My mother-in-law habitually looked down on me. In her eyes, even though no member of the mansion had held court office for 3 generations, It remained a noble family. My father, though grand tutor to the crown prince, possessed only scholarly integrity, yet he dared marry a merchant's daughter. That I, bearing the blood of a merchant's daughter, could enter her mansion was a blessing from a past life. Yet it was precisely that merchant blood in my veins that allowed me to expand the palace's meager holdings into something substantial. That small door had been deliberately left behind a time when I feared she'd despise the taint of commerce on me. Yet certain matters demanded my personal attention outside the palace walls. Unexpectedly, it became my gateway to freedom. You are the eldest princess, seated above, looked astonished. The wife of Prince Jingon. I shook my head. Your Highness, this humble maiden is Yi Zhitan, daughter of the late grand tutor to the crown prince, Yi Zhong. I wasn't merely skilled in commerce. My father was the revered grand tutor to the crown prince. From childhood, I followed him through vast libraries, composing poetry at 3, writing essays at 7. At 10, my piece Ascending Came Mountain circulated widely throughout the capital. Yet my father insisted that as a girl, I should not draw undue attention. He concealed my name, attributing the work to one of his students from southern Fujian. I resented it deeply. I vowed boldly, this life I shall not yield to any man. But after marriage, I had no choice but to put away my books and pin up my hair. I tended to household duties and served my in-laws. 20 years in the prince's household passed. Looking back now, I scarcely recall my former self. This lifetime, I will reclaim who I am. The eldest princess had long championed women's education, eagerly seeking talent. While the prince's household busied itself with wedding preparations, I anonymously sent her 3 letters. As expected, she requested an audience. Upon meeting me, she showed no hesitation over my identity, only wild delight. Madame Song's virtue is renowned far and wide, a paragon among noble women. Who would have thought she also possessed such talent and such courage? I fulfilled her need, adopting the pseudonym Master Tang and frequenting the capital's tea houses. Within a month, word spread throughout the city of a renowned female scholar, erudite, articulate, and extraordinary. And yet, no one ever discovered my true identity. 3 months later, Lady Song remained neglected within the prince's mansion. Meanwhile, Mr. Tang on the capital streets was praised by all. Another 3 months passed before the eldest princess spoke to me. Qi Tang, your identity may prove inconvenient on the path ahead. Would you require my assistance in securing a divorce? I curtsied. It is merely a domestic matter. I dare not trouble your highness with such trivialities. Your highness, please grant Zhitan 1 more month. In truth, my chance arrived in less than half a month. After marrying into the prince's household for over half a year, Yun Yao finally conceived again. Yes, again. She had been with Song Yunqian for 10 years, bearing his child 3 times. Yet each time, she sent the fetus away with a bowl of abortion potion. In Song Yunqian's words, she was resilient and cold-hearted. She would rather die than accept her child as the illegitimate offspring of a mistress. After all, she is a proper noblewoman, unlike you, unlike me, whose mother was a merchant's daughter. Only then did I realize my husband, like my mother-in-law, had always looked down on me. After giving birth to Song Jing, I bore no more children. The direct line of the royal household grew thin. When Yin Yao became pregnant, the entire household rejoiced, until one day, Yin Yao drank a cup of tea from my quarters. After returning home, she suffered lower abdominal pain and soon began bleeding. My courtyard was once again filled with a throng of people. Yi Shi, I never imagined you could be so cruel. Led by my mother-in-law, she slammed the teacup still bearing traces of poison onto the table. Our royal household has remembered your decade of marriage, your dutiful conduct, and offered you countless chances to improve. These past 6 months, you've shunned my western courtyard, neglected your husband, ignored household affairs, even abandoned Jinger. All this could be overlooked. But today, You've gone so far as to harm an unborn child. I did not yield the seat of honor to my mother-in-law, instead surveying the crowd. So, what do you all want? My mother-in-law waved her hand. Yun Qian, write the divorce papers. Just as I expected. I smiled. Someone immediately handed a brush to Song Yunqian. Song Yunqian looked at me deeply. Tang, you've pushed me too far. Don't blame me. He lifted the brush, poised to write. Husband. This seems rather hasty. I rose to my feet. Fuling immediately knelt. Grandmother, Your Highness. Before Lady Yun arrived this morning, the young master came here. It wasn't just Lady Yun's teacup. All the teacups in Hai Tang Garden were laced with poison. Please, Grandmother, Your Highness. Verify this. Fuling presented several teacups. Then another servant knelt. These medicinal packets were just found in the young master's quarters. Please examine them, Madam and Your Highness. No sooner had he spoken than a servant arrived with a physician. This man claims he sold the young master the medicine. Please question him, Madam and Your Highness. Song Jing immediately knelt on the ground, his legs trembling. I lifted my foot and walked out. Later, the princess asked how I could have calculated it so precisely. Not only did I know Yin Yao would frame me through Song Jing, but I also knew what drug he used and where he bought it. There was no other reason. I'd been through it once before, in my past life, shortly after Yin Yao entered the household. She won over everyone's hearts. She used her pregnancy as an opportunity to turn against me. How could I have ever imagined back then that my son, whom I carried for 10 months and watched grow up, would conspire with outsiders to harm me? My mother-in-law publicly scolded me before everyone. A wife like you brings shame upon our family. Song Yunqian presented a divorce decree. My greatest regret in life was bringing you into this household. Song Jing personally banished me to the estate. Having a mother like you brings nothing but shame. Each word trampled me into the mud. I strode straight to the magistrate's office. By the time they reacted and gave chase, I had already struck the drum before the courthouse. Yi Jitan, have you lost your mind? Song Yunqian seized my wrist. What do you think you're doing? Reporting to the authorities. Seeking justice. I gritted my teeth. Falsely accusing my birth mother unfilial, unkind, unjust. By law, he should. He is your child. Has he ever treated me as his mother for a single day? I raised my hand to strike the drum again. Yi Jitong. Song Yunqian gritted his teeth. What exactly do you want? The commotion outside the magistrate's office had drawn a crowd of onlookers. The men following Song Yunqian had also caught up. The 2 drum beats summoned 2 constables to investigate. Since your highness has found new love, why not part ways amicably? I demand a divorce. For a moment, no one seemed to care about the child in Yun Yao's womb. After all, the person before them mattered more than an unformed fetus. My mother-in-law shielded Song Jing as if he were the apple of her eye. When she heard I intended to report him to the authorities, she nearly collapsed from rage. But she dared not gamble again. She had already gambled once when Yun Yao entered the household, and lost. Another loss this time would cost not just the mansion's reputation, but its very future. I settled accounts with her, reclaiming every penny of the dowry I'd subsidized into the mansion over the years. Song Yunqian sneered at my constant talk of silver. He tossed the divorce papers and left. Yet Yin Yao herself came to see me off on the day I departed. Perhaps my detachment from worldly strife over the past half-year had made her feel less threatened by me. She wasn't as ruthless with herself as she had been in her previous life. She had kept the child. As she saw me off, her belly still too small to show, she wore a smile. Sister, leaving like this, I truly can't bear to part with you. You're just a woman, and Jing'er isn't by your side. Should you ever face hardship in the future, remember to return to the mansion. She likely believed that with me gone, only good days lay ahead for her. I smiled back at her. Sister, you too must cherish your love with the prince. Never parting ways. Just don't abandon each other when disaster strikes. I began working openly for the Grand Princess. Mr. Tang had already established roots in the capital, and I resumed my studies in rhetoric, as more scholars and literati joined our cause. The name of Master Tang became known to all. Seizing the momentum, the princess appealed to His Majesty. If Master Tang possesses such learning, why should other women in the realm be denied it? Your Majesty, I plead on behalf of all women. I beseech Father to establish schools for them, to permit women to study. Whenever conservative factions in court voiced opposition, she countered each objection. Are women incapable of achieving anything? Why not debate Master Tang yourself? Win first, then speak. Through the prince's relentless advocacy, the capital's first academy for women was established in less than a year. During that year, I was immersed in lectures and debates. Buried in books would be no exaggeration. Though I had no time to heed the outside world, certain events unfolded quietly nonetheless. First, Yun Yao gave birth. It was a young master. The royal household rejoiced, hosting grand banquets. Second, Song Jing reached marriageable age, yet for the past 2 years, had been carousing with a group of dissolute youths. His reputation in tatters. The wet nurse who raised him came to see me twice, pleading for me to rein him in at least until the marriage was settled. I gave no response. As winter approached, another scandal rocked the mansion. Becoming the talk of the town, Song Jing stormed the ancestral hall with his servants. The cause was Yun Yao having the monthly allowances for each household, reducing staff, and cutting back on provisions. Song Jing believed Yun Yao was deliberately skimming funds for personal gain. Yun Yao, however, cried foul, accusing her mother-in-law of hoarding resources. She claimed the household funds were utterly insufficient for the large family's daily expenses. When Feeling told me this, I felt no surprise whatsoever. A year and a half has passed. The shops I painstakingly built up must have been squandered by Yun Yao by now. Having driven me away and given birth to a son, she naturally no longer needed to grovel for everyone's favor, especially not for Song Jing's. I suspect she's scheming to secure the position of crown prince for her own son. Naturally, she and I are at loggerheads. I have no time to watch that family's spectacle. After spring arrives, I shall enter the academy and become the first female instructor at the premier girls' school. But after winter began, the Grand Princess summoned me specifically to discuss matters concerning the royal household. The Imperial Astronomical Bureau has declared that heavy snow will fall in the south this year, urging the court to prepare early. Today in the Imperial Court, Song Yunqian volunteered to take full responsibility for this matter. Qi Tong, what are your thoughts? The princess has always held me in high regard. Her question made her meaning immediately clear to me. Fortune and misfortune are intertwined. If heavy snowfall truly strikes the south, it would be a challenge yet also an opportunity. Should Song Yunqian seize this chance, he would ascend to greater heights. But as a woman myself, I felt wronged and resentful. The princess was hinting, if I refused, she could deny Song Yunqian this opportunity. Indeed, in my past life, when the southern snow disaster struck, Song Yunqian conceived what others could not. Before imperial funds arrived, he advanced private family silver to promptly deliver vast quantities of winter supplies, drastically reducing casualties. For this great merit, the following year the emperor exceptionally promoted him to Minister of Works. He became the youngest minister since the dynasty's founding. In my previous life, to scrape together that silver, I nearly sold off my entire dowry. It was after this incident that my dowry became the private property of the prince's household, leaving me with no means of support. This life, without me, without my dowry, I cannot be certain how Song Yunqian would proceed. But regardless, the lives and livelihoods of the common people are of paramount importance. Therefore, I knelt before the princess with gratitude. Imperial affairs take precedence. Your Highness need not concern yourself with Qi Tang. Select the most suitable candidate. Ultimately, the court entrusted this matter to Song Yunqian. Yet this life's outcome differed from the last. Song Yunqian's decision mirrored his previous choice. Whether for the people or his career, he gambled everything. Before the snowstorm truly arrived, he used the private silver from the mansion to stockpile vast quantities of winter supplies and send them south. The mansion held none of my dowry, but it still contained the household goods my mother-in-law had secretly hoarded. She merely disliked me. Toward this son of hers, she had always been compliant in every matter. Thus, at first, I assumed he would follow the same path as before, ascending in rank and honor. But I forgot that this life had added Yun Yao. Heeding her whispers, Song Yunqian employed servants from Yun Yao's entourage. These servants appeared loyal and trustworthy, yet harbored treacherous intentions. They feigned transporting supplies southward while secretly absconding with the funds. When the imperial treasury disbursed the silver, Song Yunqian, just as in his previous life, remained confident the supplies had arrived and did not use that silver for procurement. Not until the piercing southern snow drenched him did he realize he had taken the imperial silver but failed to deliver. A snow disaster claimed countless lives. His Majesty flew into a rage. On the very first day back in the capital, he stripped Song Yunqian of his noble title and dismissed him from office. Had it not been for several elderly ministers interceding on his behalf, he would have been thrown into prison immediately. It was said that during that bitter winter, the royal household lived in extreme poverty. They couldn't even afford coal. The old lady had saved every last coin to keep things running, hoping to spare Song Yunqian from imprisonment. I next encountered Song Yunqian before the princess' residence. I assumed he sought her intercession. Yet he blocked my palanquin. "Mr. Tang, might I have the honor of inviting you to taste tea?" I always concealed my face in public, and he had never attended my lectures. He did not know that Mr. Tang was me. I wished to ignore him, yet he pressed closer. "Mr. Tang, Mr. Tang, you hold the prince's trust. Might you speak well of Song Yunqian before Her Highness?" I swear I would. I stepped down from the palanquin. Lifting my veil, I stood silently, gazing at him. Song Yunqian's face drained of color in an instant. He stared at me in disbelief. "You, Mr. Tang, is actually you. It's actually you." Song Yunqian walked away, utterly disoriented. His face was dull and lifeless as he left, muttering, "How could this be? 15 years of marriage." He probably didn't remember what I looked like back then. Unfortunately for him, his disorientation lasted only a few hours. By evening, he came looking for me at home again. "Qi Tang, since you are Mr. Tang, matters become much simpler." Unlike his morning gloom, his eyes were wide and gleaming with shrewdness. "If you would only intercede with the princess, asking her to speak well of me before His Majesty. Tanger, if you help me through this crisis, you'll remain the mistress of our royal household. From now on, we'll be devoted and loving, living in perfect harmony, never parted again." Seated above, I gazed down at him coldly, sneering. "Song Yunqian, do you take me for a fool?" Song Yunqian froze. "Is your princess consort some kind of gilded treasure? Or some miraculous elixir?" Song Yunqian's lips trembled. "Where's your dignity? Where's your pride? Who gave you the nerve to pity me like this? To beg me for favors in that patronizing tone?" Song Yunqian, enraged by shame. "Yi Jitan, do you think I'm doing this for myself? I lost my title, my position. Do you think it's me suffering? It's your son, my son." I laughed again. "Does he bear my surname? Or has he ever shown filial piety at my feet?" "You Tanger." Song Yunqian's tone softened. "Tanger, we've been husband and wife for over a decade. You know this isn't my fault. I did procure supplies. I even advanced funds from my personal estate. I merely misjudged the man. How can all blame fall solely upon me? These words are useless spoken to me. Go report to His Majesty instead. Let His Majesty decide as he sees fit." I didn't want to argue with him anymore. I shook off his hand. As I reached the doorway, I turned back. Song Yunqian. Failing to recognize true character is also a crime. I had already paid for that crime in my past life. This life. It was his turn to taste it. Song Yunqian was indeed imprisoned. So many had died or been injured in the snowstorm. The people demanded answers. Before the verdict fell, my mother-in-law came begging. Song Jing came begging. Every single person in the prince's mansion had ever been remotely friendly to me came begging. I refused to see or hear any of them. They shouted outside the door. Yi Jitan. You've managed this household for over a decade, you can't just abandon it now. I had feeling enlarge that divorce decree. Make a rubbing of it. And mount it on the door. They persisted. After over a decade as husband and wife. Must you be so heartless, my lady? I had them all driven away and moved to the prince's residence. A month later, Song Yunqian's verdict arrived. His Majesty, mindful of his ancestor's service to the state and acknowledging he had indeed been wronged, stripped him of his title, dismissed him from office, and sentenced him to 2 years imprisonment. Finally, no one came looking for me anymore. Overnight, the tree fell and the monkeys scattered. The Jingon prince's household, both people and wealth, vanished completely. Only then did rumors surface that Yunyao had fled with the child long before this. I sat in the tea house, listening to gossip for half the afternoon. Some claimed Yunyao had absconded with what little wealth remained. Others claimed the so-called house slave had been deliberately planted by Yunyao to steal the mansion's silver. Some even whispered that Yunyao had long been involved with that servant. That the prince of Jingon had been cuckolded beyond measure. Rumors swirled wildly, and even feeling couldn't piece together the truth. But eventually, I learned the real story. It was a year later. Yunyao and that servant were arrested by the imperial court, along with the child. They say that when they were being led into the prison, they passed by Song Yunqian's cell. At just one glance, Song Yunqian roared like a madman. I rushed straight to the tea house to hear the gossip. I didn't get any real news, but I did run into Yunyao's ex-husband, who had also rushed there for the latest scandal. Who knew you shared this interest, sir? By then, my reputation had spread throughout the capital, and everyone addressed me respectfully as sir. Perhaps I should tell you the story myself. It turned out his divorce from Yunyao years ago had nothing to do with her failing to honor her mother-in-law. She broke off the engagement with the Prince of Jingon because she feared Song Yunqian wouldn't pursue a career either, spending his days idling at home. It would interfere with her affair with her lover. I was stationed at the border defenses then, returning home only once every half year or so. Naturally, that suited her perfectly. To be honest, it was utterly humiliating to be cuckolded by a mere servant. I simply couldn't bear the shame, so I concocted a flimsy excuse. Did Song Yunqian never suspect anything? After 10 years with him, she never bore him a child. How could she dare? If the child resembled her lover, the truth would be exposed. Their bond was stronger than gold. I discovered them because they tried to poison me with a barrenness potion. So that's how it was. No wonder I bore Song Jing and then remained barren. No wonder even Yin Yao's family cast her out. What a childhood sweetheart indeed. What a pale moon in the sky, snow in the clouds. After returning, I couldn't help but laugh. Laughed until tears streamed down my face. He deceived me for over a decade, and Yin Yao deceived him for over a decade. Karma is a wheel that turns. Retribution never fails. They truly deserved it. They said Song Yunqian had gone mad. In the dungeon, he neither ate nor drank, weeping and laughing without reason. His Motherno, I should say Lady Shen, fell ill soon after. Her attendant came to me many times, saying she wished to speak. I ignored her each time, until one snowy night. The attendant said she wouldn't survive the night. When I arrived, she lay on the bed, her breath faint as a thread, just as she had been the year I died in my past life. Do you remember my 50th birthday celebration? You invited chefs from all over to prepare 99 tables, 99 dishes. So many people surrounded me, showering me with flattery. They said I would surely live 10,000 years, that the future of our royal house was boundless, and that New Year's, you brought in so many fireworks from who knows where. She rambled on, recounting the mansion's former glory. Finally, her cloudy eyes fixed on me. Ye family, it's my mansion that wronged you. I am sorry. The mansion is long gone, I said. The light in Shin's eyes vanished abruptly, and tears fell. Madam, I looked at her now emaciated form. I lost my mother at 10. From the day I entered the mansion, I treated you as my own mother. What did I ever do to displease you, that you nitpicked at me endlessly? In my past life, I was possessed by a desperate need for her approval. I gave everything I could, yet she was never satisfied. Only now, starting over, do I understand. My worth doesn't need others' approval. Madam Shin looked at me. Her usually sharp face held only bewilderment. After a long moment, she murmured, But I walked this path too. Another year passed, and Song Yunqian was released from prison. I never saw him in the capital. I only heard that Yin Yao, who had supposedly been beheaded a year prior, had her grave desecrated. Time passed swiftly. Over the past 2 years, the number of students at the academy grew steadily. Besides me, another young woman from a scholarly family defied her clan's opposition to join the academy as a teacher. The days spent with the children were always bright and joyful. Lately, whenever I entered or left the academy, someone followed behind me. It was Song Jing. He had sought me out once when Song Yunqian was imprisoned, but I hadn't seen him in ages. He had grown much taller, clothed in rags. He was so gaunt his former features were barely recognizable. Knowing I wouldn't acknowledge him, he didn't approach. After Lady Shin passed, the sole remaining attendant also left. The Wang family's fortune had long been depleted, leaving him little silver. I knew head sought work everywhere. Labor, he couldn't handle it. Knowledge, he possessed none. Entertainment, within days, he'd alienate every customer and end up paying them back. Now, relying on the calligraphy ID once forced him to master, he sold paintings and writings to scrape by. Noticing my gaze fixed on him today, he took a few steps forward. Mother, his voice broke at the first syllable. I turned my face away. He halted immediately. I lifted my foot to leave. I'm sorry. Back then, he whispered, she said you ignored me for months, that she only wanted to make you sick, to tease you. I didn't know it would turn out that way. In his past life, he clearly hadn't been unaware. In this life, he was a few years younger, but whether it was him or not, I no longer cared. I went back inside and retrieved the silver ID prepared long ago. Here are 300 taels of silver, enough for a common family's food, clothing, and necessities for 3 years. I looked up at him. Now, 3 choices lie before you. At 20, enter the imperial examinations. Those who pass and become jinshi are not few. At 20, master a skill. Those who support their families with it are everywhere. At 20, end up on the streets, wasting away the rest of their lives. Such also exist. Of course, you could also live for today. Drink today's wine, be carefree for 3 days, and continue like this. All choices lie with you. Just understand this. Life offers no second chances. I placed the silver in his hand and turned to leave, whatever path he chose. It was no longer my concern. The sun shone brilliantly that day. As soon as I entered the schoolhouse, a child drying books came running over. Master, she clung to my leg. That man earlier, they said he was your son. Right. I pinched her cheek. Yes, he is. Then why didn't you take care of him? He looked so pitiful. What does taking care mean? Well, hugging him, comforting him, teaching him to read and write like you do with us. He's grown up now. He doesn't need that. Master, but I read in the books that a daughter follows her father in youth. her husband in marriage, and her son after her husband's death. A woman should regard her father as heaven, her husband as heaven, and her son as heaven. Only then is she a good woman. The books are wrong. Then why do all the books say this? Because. I crouched down and ruffled the little girl's hair. Those books were written by men fathers, husbands, sons. Then will there be books written by women someday? There will be. This is why we founded this academy, to teach our students, to free them from the oppression of feudal ideology, to shield their eyes from the blindness of biased thinking. The end.